Hi everyone, welcome to our first Veritable Winemakers talk. We are very excited to have you here. We are from Veritable. I'm Julia, this is Antoine, and then we have Birgit. The only thing you can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy a good glass of wine.
Welcome everybody on the screens. I have to say good morning to people watching us in America. I have to say good afternoon to everybody in Europe, and good evening and even good night to people watching us in Asia. I know from some people in Singapore, for example, who have not gone to bed watching this Veritable TV show tonight. So thank you especially to you for watching us. Before I do introduce me and my guests, I would like to say that, as my team said before, we miss you, I miss you. I'm missing traveling a lot. I'm missing you, meeting with you, having great times with you, having dinners with you all around the world. This is something I haven't been doing for over a year now. And at least my team now try to find a different way to meet, to talk to you, to share our experiences, our knowledge about wine, and to talk among us at least, and to have you and sharing these moments with you online. Just to introduce myself, my name is Christian Ress. A lot of you we might have met before, some maybe not. I'm the co-owner of the Balthasar estate. At the same time, I'm the co-founder of Veritable. Veritable was a company that I founded nearly 10 years ago. So we will celebrate 10 years next year together with my friend Olivier Brun, French guy, and Clemens von Els. And it was actually born from the Balthasar export department, when I realized that when I was traveling, that I would be even more valuable talking to importers if I would be able to offer more than just my own wine estate and to offer a full German portfolio. Then we realized when I started to do so that actually we are very valuable to German producers with the knowledge that we have, the knowledge in export paperwork, the knowledge of the markets. And that's why we now have found, with the years doing so, we have found a nice and attractive position as middleman, which people trust us, with people trusting us on both sides, trusting us on the side of the producers. So thank you very much for your trust. Without you, we wouldn't be doing this job, and the trust of you on the screens, probably working with wines from Balthasar and my colleagues.
Very welcome also from my side, but it's not about me. It's about these men around me. It's about these fantastic winemakers. So I'll just start to introduce the first one. Just to my left, for you it's on the right, but for me it's on the left. It's Kai Schätzel from Nierstein, Rheinhessen. We have seen quite a lot of problems with frost in France at the moment. Are you touched with frost, or are you still happy?
So honestly, we are quite happy so far. We had 2 or 3 colder nights now, and hopefully they are over from today on. But we only had -1, -1.5, and the green leaves are not totally out yet. So we cross our fingers, are happy for Rheinhessen Nierstein. But of course we know that some colleagues in France are slightly more in trouble.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we still realize that winemaking and agriculture is a natural business, and we are still under the effects of nature, and that's always good to know.
And we will see the natural also with the second wine we're going to taste together from you. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's switch over to Georg on my right side from Zellertal, which is Pfalz region. Zellertal is not really known, but it still has 500 hectares of vineyards. And it's let's say the most northern part of Pfalz, so also the coldest part.
Yes, most northern part and the coldest, and also our valley, the Zellertal, is split between Pfalz and Rheinhessen. So you can say we are a mixture of both regions.
Ah, okay, nice. And did you have any problems with the frost there? No.
No, we had some cold nights with -2, -3 degrees, but the vegetation isn't that far, so that we didn't get any damage in the vineyards.
That's good to hear. And the third one is Claus almost I would have said Heitlinger, but no, Burmeister. But you know, there are two wineries, Weingut Heitlinger and Burg Ravensburg, but both in the Rheingau area of Baden. I would say it's one of the most northern parts of Baden, but you don't like this expression.
If you put northern as more aside, I don't like the expression. If you put northern right now with climate change, I think we start to liking this expression. I think the Rheingau is a smaller, not as well-known region from Baden. The very interesting thing about this, we are probably one of the oldest region, and our wine growing goes back about 2,000 years. And regarding to the frost, if I said that, we are being more south to the other guys, two guys. We already had the Chardonnay was already out. We saw some leaves, also on the top vineyards from Pinot and Blaufränkisch. So we see a little bit damage right now, but we're still very positive that it's not too bad, and we get through it with a little damage. And as you said, nature is showing us always his power, but at the end of the year, it shows also the power of nature in the wine. So we see, and there's a lot of things to come and to work with this year, and we are looking forward.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. It's cool climate, what we're talking about, but we shouldn't forget Christian. He introduced himself, but you know, Christian, Res, Eltville, Rheingau area. So we're just 10 minutes away from your winery, from your home. Did you have any effect of frost here in the region?
No, it was quite tight to be honest, but luckily no damage happened. But it was close. I mean, it was very cold the last few nights. But as you said, I think it's done now. I guess we are out of risk now for the coming days and weeks. Ben, if you want, I can while you serve the wine, I can start and
yeah,
say
go ahead,
few
please.
words about this wine, which is a wine which is very very important for the wine estate's history, and it has a close link to the history of the estate. It's called von Unserm. Von Unserm means from us. So of course all Balthasar wines are from us, but this has really this name, these few words, these two words on the label, because it was the brand name that Balthasar, the very first generation, I'm generation number 5, generation number 1, Balthasar, the founder of the estate, was actually owning a large hotel and different restaurants. And he came up with the idea when he started to sell and make own wines, he decided to put von Unserm from us on the label in the wine list of the hotel, so that people, the guests of the hotel, would actually realize that is from his own production, because he was very proud about these wines. And there was one point in generation number 1 where all the wines of Balthasar were called von Unserm. Okay. And at one point, he then registered this trademark as a trademark in the German trade register. And today, this is what we know is one of the oldest brand names in the German wine industry, which has been used for over 100 years, over 5 generations. So it's something that we are very proud about, and that we will certainly continue to use. And it's the name for our estate Riesling. Our dry estate Riesling is named von Unserm.
And I like the sentence you have on your website about this wine. It's the liquid business card of the winery. I think this explains it very well. It is a easy, accessible wine, easy to drink, but still has a lot of personality also. So you have this nice balance, not to be everybody's darling, but... No,
but it should be the name card, as we say it, of the estate. I mean, always part of the concept. Von Unserm should reflect Balthasar, the vineyard portfolio of Balthasar, and the region in a very good way, should reflect the region in a very good way. And that's why the von Unserm is always a blend of different, very important vineyards in different appellations that we own. So we use Hattenheim Rieslings, which bring the fruit, the body. We use Rüdesheim Rieslings, which bring the minerality. So there's a little bit of everything in here. So the region and the vineyard portfolio of Balthasar is very good reflected by this von Unserm wine.
I have 4 winemakers here who all produce also Riesling. Some of them, like you, it's 90% or 90+% of Riesling. Some others, it's a bit less. But what would you say? How do you see the difference between the different regions, the different terroirs? Georg, what is your impression?
You mean especially from Unserm?
Yeah, but as comparison from Unserm to the style you're doing, for example.
I like the combination, the balance of juiciness and the acidity kick you get, which gets some, the mouth watering at the end, and you just have to take the next nip to don't get the tongue too dry. So it's, I like it a lot.
I like the truth a lot that we talk here about a kind of blending idea. What is an artwork in a way, and has nothing to do with cheap wine blending, but using the power of the region to bring fruit, stability and drinkability together in one product is nothing downgrading, but in my words, upgrading for drinking pleasure and usability to the wines. So this wine is a perfect message for the region and for your winery. And so you see the glasses here, it's always melting down quite fast, so it works.
Yeah.
I would say it's Rheingau Riesling, good Riesling at its best. Rheingau drinking Riesling at its best. Great blend, fun to drink. You don't have to think a lot to drink. You just enjoy drinking, and this is how it should be.
And comparing it with a Riesling from Rheingau area, where Riesling is maybe not as strongly as well known, what would be the key factors where you would see the difference?
One thing I would say first that Baden is not a typical Riesling area, but Rheingau is one of the most important areas for Riesling in Baden. So we have a very long Riesling tradition, especially Burg Ravensburg, with first planting Riesling in the appellation in 1782 with the Duke of Baden. But I think you see a great difference. You have probably in this blend you have a lot of using less vineyards. So we have this clearness, this brightness in them. In the Rheingau we have limestone, and we have also more clay. So our Rieslings tend to be a little bit more full-bodied from that side. So I think that would be for me a major part or difference, or what makes the different styles of Riesling like this. And this is also a reason why Rheingau is so famous for its Rieslings, because this is just a lot of fun to drink. This is perfect.
Probably you were mentioning the limestone you have a lot in your area. That's probably also the reason why you are the Burgunder Wunder in the portfolio here.
I don't know about Wunder, but it's our main grape varietal, especially for Heitlinger. And we are happy that we can grow Burgunder, but I think also Riesling is the varietal that shows amazingly different terroirs. And I think you shouldn't have one thought of Riesling in your mind, what is the perfect Riesling. It's always about quality and about the drinking moment what you're looking for. But I think there's no perfect Riesling. There is a perfect expression of terroir and place and winemaker and the people doing it. And I think you should always respect that. And as I say, in a nice summer day, I just love to open one of those von Unserm and drink it, and hope probably I have another one in the bottle. In the fridge. that it's cold.
For sure. You were saying it. The difference is the winemakers behind the wines, the style, how the expression is made in the wines. It's very, very important, and I think this is also something which brings the 4 of you together, because as far as I see it, we are talking about top quality producers, and everybody, or all the 4 of you, are looking for your terroir, not trying to copy anything else, but trying to express your own terroir. Zellertal, Nierstein, Rothang, we were talking about it, this very special terroir of Rheinhessen. It's unique again.
I guess that's very true for all of us. This focus for terroir. I guess this is something we all look at when we work, when we do our daily work, and especially I have to say this for the Riesling, because that's what I'm dealing with in most of our portfolio. It's always exciting to see how well and precisely this grape variety can reflect the terroir, the place where it has been grown. And that's why we will experience together quite different wines from the other side, where he has some completely different terroirs on his Roter Hang on the other side of the river than we do. And this reflects in the wine. And it will be different if you grow Riesling. That's so exciting about this this grape variety. That's really the fun part of it, to see that this grape variety is able to reflect the place where it has been grown.
It can reflect the place where it has been grown. It can reflect also the signature of the winemaker, and even playing the different levels of residual sugar. The bone dry Riesling going up to a really extremely sweet Trockenbeerenauslese, or the fun stuff, the nice stuff like the Kabinett we will have later. So this is something I think unique in the wine world, that one grape varietal can show all this spread. We're going to Zellertal with a Chardonnay from Georg. Could you just talk a little about the wine while I'll pour the wine to all of us?
Yeah, maybe to express why we plant also Chardonnay is a little bit the history of our winery. When my brother and me, we do the family estate together. When we took over the winery, it was our parents, they had a lot of different varieties. It was more like a traditional winery to show a lot of wine styles, and we said, okay, we have to focus. The first years we had a clear focus on Riesling, because we love a lot the Riesling. But then like we talk now, you have to see what soil do you have. We have also, like you, Claus, limestone and clay. And what possibilities do you get out of your soil? And also, I think, Per, you said, okay, it's impossible for us to copy the other one. That is impossible, because you have to hear on the vineyard, on the microclimate we have, and also the vegetation, to see, okay, which varieties are you allowed to plant. It's in the Zellertal, in the northern part of Pfalz. We have a bit cooler weather, so the very international varieties we aren't allowed to plant, because they won't get fully ripened in some years. So we had to see, okay, beneath the Riesling, we focus on Pinot and also the Chardonnay. And now in the glass we have the Chardonnay Zellertal, so the Ortswein. And it's out of 2 vineyards, 2 small plots in the Kreuzberg. They're now nearly 30 years old, with a small touch of oak. 1/3 was in old oak barrels, 2/3 in stainless steel. And I just have to taste. Now 20 vintage, so very young at the moment.
Very young, but I personally, I love this playing between the creaminess of the touch of oak, but you still have this refreshing acidity of the northern hemisphere.
Yeah. I also like like you said, the creaminess, and you have a small acidity, but also some let's say herbicides, what gives you some explosions on the tongue. And
so you said that the vineyards are some 20 years old.
Yeah.
So you were, let's say, one of the early adopters for Chardonnay in Germany, or?
Yeah, let's say our father was very experimental. We had a lot of varieties, and luckily he planted also Chardonnay very early. But yeah, it's cool to have it. Mm-hmm. But now also for the future, 10 years ago we started to also plant Chardonnay for the high range, which we started now in 2019 to really look which kind of Chardonnay clone can we get the best potential out.
Yeah, and we were talking before, and you were telling us the labor you had to do for the vineyard planting you just did in these weeks.
Yeah, it's let's say we have limestone, but I think it does describe it better when you say we have lime rocks, because it's it's not that fun to work in the vineyards, but I think it's worth it. Also on the pictures you can see.
The pictures, yeah.
On the upper left, the Wotanfels, so it's a massive rock in the middle of the vineyards, and in the past, 30 years ago or more, 40 years ago, they still used to use TNT for getting rid of the rocks.
Yeah. Nowadays it's forbidden, so you have to do it by hand.
No, the neighbors don't see
like
it that
the
relaxing.
How do you get this refreshing drinkability level? So you pick quite early, or how do you handle this kind of energy monster and the lightweight effects? Yeah,
I think what is very lucky for the Zellertal in the past, 6 years ago, they told the people, okay, in the Zellertal, dry wines, the alcohol is below 10, and the acidity is up than 10. And I think at the moment also it's getting warmer. I think we all can say that we can harvest very ripened, but still with a good acidity and also pH. So it's not that oily picking, but it's hard to describe. It's Zellertal.
So we had the jump from Riesling to Chardonnay, and it's really here we're back. It's not the trial to copy something. I think it's really a unique style for your region, which is or has been very famous in Germany, because winemaking is there since thousands of years.
Yeah, it's our village is the oldest wine growing village in whole Pfalz, so since 708. But you know, fame from centuries ago doesn't help you.
Yeah,
but you know, what is for me was very inspiring to see that 1,300 years ago in the Zellertal, with a very small possibilities they had to cultivate vineyards, that it was also possible. And that was for us the question also 70 years ago. Zellertal was one of the big players in Pfalz. Mm-hmm. Also the Schwarze Herrgott, what we taste later, and it was just to understand what happened and to say, okay, just we have to go back more to the tradition to see which not to taste, okay. The more varieties that we have, the better the winery is. It's more to say, okay, to focus which varieties work and to show the Zellertal also in Chardonnay.
Yeah. Where did you learn your Chardonnay winemaking?
Okay, now we have to start at the basics. For me, I studied economics in Mannheim. My brother is the winemaker, of course, in our small family business. I am also in the cellar and in the vineyards, but my brother's more on the winemaking part. And what I like in winemaking most, it's not to, of course, you can have a very good education, but for me it's more kind of passion and feeling, and to say, okay, I am eager to learn more and more and to see what can I get out of the vineyards. I think that's for me the fun part, because when I was younger, it was not every time the decision, okay, I have to become a winemaker or to make the winery of my parents. This was just to say, okay, the fascinating of winemaking, of the different soils, of the different regions. That's what pushed me to say every year, okay, we have to.
So together with your brother, you're now managing the winery, and he's more the one making the wine, and you're more the guy being known by our audience, selling the wine?
Yeah, you could say it's the main, what we can say, how we divide the winery. But of course, when we planted now Chardonnay and Schwarze Herrgott, I also had to dig the holes. Yeah. So it's also the fun part to you never know what you do on the next day. Yeah.
Nice. Claus, you also have quite a lot of Pinot varietals. So having or comparing with the 4 winemakers, you would be the next one with the Pinots. Where would you see the difference between this style of Chardonnay and the Pinot style you have in Baden area?
I said it's always hard to compare. I think it's, but as Kai said, I like the vibrance, the energy of this Chardonnay, and being in Baden and for us, especially having clay. For me, this wine doesn't show clay that much. It shows more the limestone. It shows more this freshness, this brilliance. And I don't know, you're the sommelier. You probably say I'm wrong, but I would like to say it's a little bit like you have a really good Chablis with German fruit perfection. Because you have this vibrance, this energy, this nice minerality to it. But you have this what we Germans like. I think we can really do good is this with our climate, this beautiful fruit expression and this energy wine shows this cool energy with a lot of ripeness. This what I really like. But I don't think we can do it when we are. But we are a little bit more full-bodied. But I just love the interpretation of the Chardonnay here.
Yep, I think this is very well said. It's a question of the interpretation. What do you want to have? What is your idea of the wines? And that's a combination between terroir and handwriting and so on, and the possibilities you can have. You don't work too much with Pinot varietals, don't you?
No, not at all. I love drinking them, and I prefer going to professional Chardonnay producers and getting the good stuff from there. And we are getting more and more very, very nice German Chardonnays, but I think there's no Riesling producer not drinking the Burgundy white wines as well. So nothing wrong about having your eyes open and drink whatever is benchmarking worldwide. And if you have the possibility to do it in Germany and find the right match of climate and terroir, let's do it. And so I'm a huge fan of this wine style, and I'm pretty much sure that these wines will get more and more in focus, because the success story of Chardonnay can be drinkability as well, and this wine is a picture for drinkability. So.
Might it also be a question of a positive question of the climate change we are having, that we as a northern winemaking country are having more and more advantages?
You're asking me?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so you can always do two things with the change. So we are in a change of climate and a change of nature, human and wine styles at the same time. So it's always everything together, and we can complain and saying, oh, it's getting warmer, we don't have enough water anymore, or we say, okay, that's a new situation. And if you ask me in personal, my answer is that a farmer was always a good farmer if he is the best in adaptation. In this kind of circumstances. So yes, it's getting warmer, but I'm pretty much sure we will invent or learn how to handle it. So we are 1.5 degrees warmer perhaps than 100 years ago, and most of this climate change happened within the last 15, 20 years. But at the same time, we know what's happening to warmer areas. So this 1.5 degrees are more or less 400 kilometers. Moving south, and we can just look there and go there, and perhaps we will figure out that we have to learn to adapt our growing system slightly. We need to learn how to handle the water household. We need to rethink about pH levels and ripeness levels, and that can be a big fun story as well. And I think that's our job now, professional, and that's why this winemaking and agriculture is a marvelous job if you are open-minded to the future.
That's a very good point. Being open-minded and trying to really see the very best possibilities, what you can do out of it. Do you see also a necessity to do these changes not only in winemaking but also rather in wine growing? So the style, the layout of the vineyards, and how you do the training of the vines?
I think that's perhaps one of the biggest topics we can talk about tonight, because wine is about wine growing. The last millimeters on a kilometer way we do in the cellar, and the rest is happening in the vineyards to find the perfect balance between nature, climate, and sustainability ideas in a process. So we have been raised in a cooler system, most of us, and we have been raised in times where people have been afraid about getting grapes moldy before they get ripe. And today it's the other way around. They get overripe before we are picking them, and sometimes. And so we need, I think, to learn to find new ways. We need perhaps more shadow today than we needed 20 years ago. Water is one of the biggest things, and irrigation is only one solution. I'm pretty much sure there are other ways as well. And picking tasty, ripe grapes that are not unripe at the same time is a challenge of perfect fruit. So it's a lot of things to do, and I think we all have our own recipes and our own strategies. And so, for example, for us, we believe pretty much in shadow. So sometimes we don't cut the wines anymore if it's hot in summer times, and it looks more or less like a pergola sometimes. Some vineyards, we are going back to a very old education system with 12,000 wines per hectare, going the Mosel way with single stem education to have a lot of possibilities to create shadow. We believe in the natural cooling system of terroirs by having it with green herbs and grass and cover whatever. So there are a lot of things, and it's not over yet. And so I like nights and situations like today where we come together with producers and talk and be open-minded with each other to learn from each other, to find new recipes. And sometimes we in a small circle are faster than a university can be. So if we change our information around with the good boys and girls and members, then we can be very creative, I think.
What you said, Kai, that actually ripeness is not really an issue anymore. I just want to add from my own family's experience that I know from what my grandfather told me, and what I know obviously from my father, and what I know from our rare wine cabinet, is that until the 80s of last century, it was completely normal in the Rheingau to have 3 bad vintages in a decade. This was normal. 3 out of 10 vintages were bad in the way that you didn't achieve a reasonable ripeness level. So the lack of ripeness was a real challenge until including the 80s. And since the 90s, we don't have this anymore. Ripeness is not an issue anymore since the 90s. New challenges have come. However, new diseases, water is a challenge. New insects which have come from Southern Europe, and now
the frost situation.
Situation, because everything is starting more early than before.
The hail.
Yeah.
Hail. So the challenge, while it was before, it was ripeness. Today the challenge is more to achieve healthy grapes until the end, without hail touching them, without them being eaten by new insects which probably come up. So it's changing, and that's our challenge. That's what we have to manage.
Take it.
Exactly. We take it, we accept it, but it's not ripeness anymore. That's not a challenge anymore. That's true.
So the last really bad vintage, not quantity wise, but where you would say you didn't have ripeness, when would it have been for you?
I would say we had challenging vintages with ripeness, 2010, 2013, but not to compare how it used to be. one of the older guys here, probably.
I thought we wouldn't talk about the age.
No, I'm just I'm really involved in working in the cellar since '88, but I still can remember '87, and '87 was a horrible year. This was really a challenge. But then after that, you can say everything was better than after '87 in our region. But we had challenging years. I think '91 was not easy. But we also learned with our education and what we're doing to be able to handle vintages also better, to be, or especially the passionate winemakers or working out in the vineyards, we adapt much more to what the situations are in the vineyards, depending on making crop regulations, finding the right moments to harvest. 2014 was a challenging year. We had in Baden, we had a lot of rain just before harvest, and kind of tended to explode everything, and you still had to pick fast. But I think with being able to have a lot of people out there hand picking, what Kai said, adapt to your situations. 2003 was, if I look back, easier than 2018. But we learned a lot from 2003. 2003 was the first year. We had totally different conditions, hot, dry, everything. We learned so much from that year that we could go on to the next years. And that's what is important. You always have to look to your situations. And for me, I had a topic with my father also say, climate change. He said, look, we had 3-4 years in a decade, we didn't get the wines, the grapes ripe. We had, if we were lucky, 1 great year and 1 good year, or 2 good years. Now we are talking about the grapes getting too ripe. So what is the bigger problem? To say it a little bit on an easy way, we can pick earlier, but if they don't get ripe, they don't get ripe. Mm-hmm. If you look at the old cellar books from the 60s, 70s, it was normal in Baden to harvest in November, even in December. Now we have years we are finished in September. My birthday is on 24th of September. Sometimes the harvest didn't start on the 21st of when I was a kid. I even didn't start it. It started in October. Now we had the last 5 years, we had 3 vintages. We were finished on the 24th of September. So this shows how it changed. But still now, if I look at the wines, I still think, wow, the conditions are in our favor. But what we have to do is we have to favorize the conditions, which means we have to adapt what Kai said. Yep. Very, very important. And to see the new challenges. One problem is solved, the next is going to come. And this is what makes it so great, our job. We never know what we're going to expect in a year. Now we have the coldest April since 30 years.
Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Luckily, it didn't hit us or hit you too much here in Germany. But I think this is one of the very important points you just mentioned again also. With the adaptation, you have to learn what has happened in the last years, and you have to adapt to the climate change. And sometimes also go a step back, maybe. And I'm trying to use this step back to introduce the next wine we're tasting, the Silvaner. The front label could be seen as normal Silvaner, but it's far more than normal. Kai, what would you say?
Yeah, first of all, thanks that we have the possibility to have such a special and slightly different wine in the tasting today. So even though we are a super Riesling focused winery, we are more than 90% producing Riesling in Nierstein, as the Schätzel family does. We have this kind of one small extra, and this one more thing is Silvaner. Silvaner for us is super deeply related to our family history, and we have in the Schätzel family an own genetic and an own clone for Silvaner that my grandfather did the selections for, and that's the reason why we have Silvaner also in super high-end vineyards. So this Silvaner we have now is grown in a spot we know as Hipping. So for Riesling it would be a Core Cru spot. So we do a Hipping Große Gewächs there. But for Silvaner there's not a classification. So honestly this spot was our experimental spot where we did a lot of innovations during the last years to find a new way to adapt with the situation and the climate and the circumstances. And so what we have today here is our Silvaner that is totally natural. And if we talk about natural wine, we don't want to provoke against the classical wine world. It's just slightly different that we don't use sulfur to stabilize the wine, and it's not filtered. And at the same time, we see that this wine looks quite normal. So it has a long, it has a long time in oak barrels to do sedimentations. So it was more than 12 months on the full yeast in a 1200 liter Stückfass, so old oak. And at the same time, today we know that there are stabilization ideas that work without any oxidation in the glass. So producing natural wine doesn't mean to produce oxidized brown apple juice-like drinks. If we talk about natural wines, we mean a classical handcrafted idea with a cultural content. So
here we see your cellar probably with the old barrels.
Yeah, so you see the 1200 and 600 liter oak barrels that we are working in. It's all fermented by natural yeast, of course, and we like the long yeast content and long time of full yeast aging process. And honestly, more and more important is something that is very new for us in the region. We use smart floor yeast, so a kind of yeast that is growing on the top on the wine in the barrel and is stabilizing the oxidation levels.
So a little bit like in Jerez with the floor?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not a coincidence. Like natural wine, it's not just not to add sulfur. It's for us it has a lot to do with pH levels. So you have mentioned it. Stabilization begins in the vineyard, and we have been talking about good and healthy wines that grow out there. And this is a basement for a stable wine that we have in the glass. And so this Silvaner for us is at the moment the most drinkable wine for us in the team. So if you ask somebody in the Schätzel crew, we drink at the moment, first year, more Silvaners than cabinets. So the last year were driven by the cabinets we do. This year is the Silvaner is our most private consumption wine we have, because we like this kind of middle way in between being, yes, a natural wine, but being a super drinkable drink at the same time.
It is really super
it is a
drinkable.
drink. Of course, you smell that there's slightly a different aroma than on a stabilized wine with sulfur first. But at the same time, it's clean. There's no volatile acidity. There's no damage on the wine. Besides, it's made from grapes only.
Yeah, you know, it's 2018, so it's not a error which was displayed to you, dear guests over there, and still a certain freshness also.
It's more or less just released, so it needs a lot of time in the barrel to stabilize out like this. So you see, it's not milky or so. Our entry level of natural wines still are still milky because we bottled them earlier. But this is the middle level, so the Niersteiner, grown in VDP.Premier spots.
It even says on the capsule, VDP.Aus ersten Lagen. So Premier Cru.
It has an AP number.
Yeah.
So let's smile and say thank you. So as long as these wines are on the full yeast, they are getting totally clear. And we have now Riesling aging projects going on for 4 or 5 or even 6 years on the full yeast without sulfur. And the Rieslings that are even lower in pH levels are white like a young baby. So there's even less oxidation than here on the wine on a 2016 Riesling from Pettenthal, for example. It's magical. to learn that we didn't knew anything too much about this. When I was a kid, we were sulfuring the wines 2 weeks after the fermentation because we were afraid the wines get brown and oxidize and so. And honestly, yes, it was okay, especially if you have had times where you had some infections by botrytis, and so you had a totally different idea how to trade young wines. Today we are in a new decade, and super healthy ripe grapes that luckily are able to pick with low pH levels at the same time have a different level of stabilization that we know from Jura or other regions. It is new to our region. Okay. Normally we are pretty straight to have these 3 different categories. So for the natural wines we use floor yeast because floor yeast only starts for us after the malolactic fermentation, and that's normally not happening with our classical Rieslings. So our normal wines are, I would say, 95% free of floor yeast. It's only the natural wines where we use this new or very old traditional technique.
Yeah. And this is the nice thing. When you see the products you produce, you have a very easy square with 3 to the right, 3 to the bottom. So you have natural, Riesling, and Kabinett, exactly. And then Gutswein, Premier Cru, Grand Cru.
Exactly. So it's an easy map, and we are quite happy that the VDP has such a straightforward and terroir-driven system that makes it possible to have wines classified in a quite logical idea. It helped us to focus. So we throw out every product that is not totally necessary. Mm-hmm. So when I was a kid, we had perhaps 10 Silvaners and altogether perhaps 60, 65 wines on the wine list. And at this time, we were only 1/3 of the size of the wineries than we are today.
So only with 5 hectares, you had far more wines than now.
A lot. And so today we are pretty much focused on what we feel is our core portfolio. We had Pinots in the past, we had Scheurebe, we had a lot of varieties, and today we do Riesling, 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 and 1 Silvaner. So this is the only Silvaner we do, and we only do it from this vineyard and do it in this interpretation. This is our picture for this wine, and we like that a lot. And I think later on we will taste a Cabinet as well.
Yeah.
That is totally the opposite. So I don't want to provoke and say natural is the only way of winemaking. We like sulfured wines as well. So you have a lot of possibilities, mm-hmm. And we are still, like you mentioned, Klaus, in a learning process. We still learn how to adapt with the circumstances, and that's a lot of fun.
And super interesting to see that we're talking about climate change, that it's getting warmer, but we are, with bone dry wine, at 11% of alcohol.
Does it feel unripe?
No.
No,
not for me. Christian, what would you say? Do you feel?
No. But that again, that's the result of the still. I mean, we were talking about climate change and the climate getting warmer, but it's still a cool climate for winemaking.
Yeah.
We are still in a cool climate in Germany. I mean, right here in the Rheingau, we're on the 50th degree parallel, so this is far away from equator. Compared to where normally winemaking takes place. And I know that we have a map, Julia, of the globe showing where most of the winemaking takes place. And it's always worth reminding people that most of the winemaking
here we are. Here's the map.
Takes place between 35th and 45th degree parallel on both sides of the equator. And now if you look where we are, that's the orange line, that's where the Rheingau is, most of the probably more or less all we make wine. That's far away from equator. And that's outside, it's outside the area where most of the rest of the world makes wine. And that is what makes a difference. That's why German wine is so crisp, so refreshing, and has this energy we have been talking several times already.
Yep.
Yeah. And probably also now with the change which VDP has brought into functioning here in Germany, this classification turning away from the old system, Christian.
Yeah, I know. I mean, in Germany, we have a legal classification system, which was, and is still looking at ripeness level, which is quite a strange system compared to the rest of the world, because it's only Germany and if you want Austria who have systems like this. In the rest of the world, it's here we see it in the rest of the world. Actually, people look at terroir. The legal systems look at terroir. In Germany, our 71 law looks at ripeness level, which to a certain extent does make sense, because ripeness does come with concentration, with aroma, with complexity. So ripeness does make sense. However, if you only look at ripeness, what you do neglect is terroir, which the law that we have today, the legal system, does not look at. Of course, you do find names of vineyards on the labels, but the normal consumer, with thousands of different vineyards in Germany, has no chance of getting an idea just from the vineyard name. Has no chance to get an idea whether this is a great terroir or just an average terroir. And that's why VDP, and that's the big change, the VDP in 2012 came up with the VDP classification, which now does not look too much at ripeness, but really looks at terroir. And this is a simple classification which has 4 levels, and which is a classification actually of the terroir, of the vineyard, of the origin of the wine into 4 categories, which is starting at the bottom with the VDP.GUTSWEIN, then the Ortswein, which is the village, the erste Lage, the premier cru, and the Großlage, the Grand Cru. And both systems are existing next to each other. And so this makes it one side quite complex, but once you understand it, it's really valuable information and helpful information. But I guess what people should keep in mind, the VDP has introduced the look towards terroir, which the legal system didn't do too much. So that's actually the big change.
I would even say that the VDP created the system in Germany, or was the spearhead of the system, and more other wineries, producers are following this path, and maybe even the legal system is changing that way.
Which does make sense. Because, you know, in Germany, we produce a lot of Riesling. I mean, let's get back to the example of Riesling. Riesling, as I told before, is a grape variety which does reflect terroir very precisely. So it does make sense to base its classification on where it has been grown, because ripeness is not really, I mean, is important, but is not the only thing you should look at. So we are happy to see that movement towards terroir.
Yeah. And the VDP is not a closed job. So we are just 200 producers in Germany, and if something is working, we share the ideas. So we see that in Rheinhessen we created this Maxime Herkunft Rheinhessen, so a club that is using the same system of classifications than the VDP. And I see this in other regions as well, that we are working close together with young up and coming producers and with some older classics as well. So it's about doing the right things, and we are still partners working together. So the system the VDP is adapting is coming from the France idea, more or less. So it's not a secret.
No, it's not a secret, and I love this idea of sharing, and also Maxime Rheinhessen, or Maxime Herkunft Rheinhessen. So Herkunft, which is the center of all of it. I was just smelling into the wine again, and I think it needed a long time to be bottled, but it needs also a long time to open in the glass afterwards. So
that's against the old rules.
Yeah.
Because in the past we said, oh, it's unsulfured, drink it fast, it gets oxidized. You can have it open for a couple of weeks and it's not getting brown. It's stable by nature. And what I feel, the answer is this wine is still alive. So we didn't kill it. So there are still, you don't see it directly, but there are still more or less active yeasts and bacteria in the wine. And so this wine made its way. And for handcrafted wines, I say this is a very nice project and a nice future. I don't think this is to be produced in big industrial companies, because you need a lot of micro vinifications, bucket by bucket selections, box by box treatment of grapes, barrel by barrel ideas of fermentation and stabilization. It's not possible, I would say, to produce this kind of wines in big lots. So that's why I feel this is a very smart future for all of us, that we are working in the micro vinification. So we are all micro, small producers if you compare us to the international producers. So this is still a hand-working process and idea. And I love these wines a lot. And I understand people that don't drink natural wine so far. I'm pretty much sure that in a couple of years it's quite normal to have a natural wine in the menu as well. And it's nothing bad and nothing good only, but drink what you like. And for those of us that started drinking more and more unsulfured wines, we are getting slightly more and more addicted to it, because as more you drink it, as more you like it. If you do it the first time, it's confusing perhaps, but as more you do it, as more you like it. And
I think it's even a perfect match also for a lot of sommeliers to serve in a restaurant, because wines which are driven by primary fruit, to which with what would you match it? So you could go for fruit salad, yeah, great. but in the end of the day, where do you have fruity aromas in normal dishes? But here you're talking about totally different levels. So I think this is perfect for sommeliers, for people who love to combine the wine with a nice meal.
Silvaner was always a wine we tried to sell as the food wine. Honestly, since I was young, it was not always working. So Silvaner was not the most successful grape of our young days. There were a lot of marketing ideas to push Silvaner, but honestly, it was not the most sexy grape since Chardonnay and Pinot Blanc and Pinot Gris came up. And so the share of Silvaner in the German wine production was going down dramatically during the last decades. But I feel that Silvaner is still a very big thing in our history. It was for Rheinhessen the most important grape a couple of decades ago. And there is a reason, and the reason is not only that Silvaner can produce a lot of fruit, but I think the reason is that Silvaner has magical skins. The inner parts of the skins of Silvaner are magical if it comes to the point of stabilization. So there are super nice aromas coming from the inner part of the skins that make Silvaner having a very healthy fermentation and being very protected against oxidation, and at the same time producing wines that are not fruit driven. So you mentioned it already, this wine is driven by minerality and by the structure, and is always getting one step behind the food. It's not trying, Silvaner doesn't try to overlay the food and the fish or the meat, whatever. It's going in the background. That's what we like about it, and it's very sensitive. But I'm thrilled to get the next one.
Yeah. So. We already started.
May I say, I love the Silvaner. It's a great interpretation, and I love the way how you approach the grape varietal and the topic natural wine. I think you shouldn't talk about how wine is made. You should talk about if wine is good or no good.
If it's tasty or not. The only reason to drink a wine is it's tasty.
Yeah.
The best
this is
thing
freaking tasty and freaking good.
The best thing is if the bottle is empty and you're asking for the next bottle. I think this is the most important. Wines where you just taste and taste but don't drink, what the hell? That doesn't help anybody of us. Switching to the next wine from Claus, we are sticking to the same vintage, 2018, but going to Pinot Blanc, Eichelberg, Grand Cru. So this is the wine we're having in the glass. I think this is something quite special again. Claus.
I hope so. It's a GG, so it should be special. And give it a little bit more temperature. I think the wine loves a little bit. It's just slightly too cold, but a little bit to Heitlinger. And what we are doing, Heitlinger was one of the top wine estates in the 90s in Germany, and got through some trouble, and it got a new owner in 2007 with the focus on we want to go back and want to get back to the top of Germany. And I myself, I'm born in the Rheingau, and I got a chance to
take over the responsibility.
run this challenge with the owner and with a passionate family. And from the moment we started, we said, for us, we focus on terroir. And very crazy, probably in some parts in Rheinhessen or Pfalz also, is we had vineyards. You see the Eichelberg on the bottom right, and these vineyards were old. Like we know that this plot was mentioned in 784.
But it's well hidden.
And it's well hidden. It's a beautiful view on our landscape, but it's totally surrounded by forest. So this makes a very, very unique microclimate. Forest always has a big impact to the wines, and especially to the freshness and the elegance of the wines. Also, what you see probably a little bit in the back is it's white limestone. It's a river sediment limestone, about 160 million years old, and it's pure rock. It's not as hard what you had probably, because it breaks quite easy and erodes, but it's a very, very poor soil, and it is well known since decades or hundreds of years. It's probably one of the oldest vineyard site names in Baden mentioned, and it was not planted anymore. And so we had a chance to get our hands on those vineyards, replant the vineyard in 2011, and we did it with about nearly 30 hectares of Grand Cru vineyards, which were not planted anymore mostly, because they're so poor, so hard to work. I heard Kai with his steep vineyards in Nierstein. If you know when you work there, it's not easy. But the great things about, if you taste the wines after that, you know it's worth every minute you stay there, and every steep hill you climb every day and every time you do it. And so we replanted those vineyards, and especially this side, and we decided to plant Pinot Blanc, because Pinot Blanc for me is still a little bit hidden champion behind Chardonnay and Pinot Gris. But you have this, Pinot Blanc has this elegance and this beautiful fine fruit. And I think you agree, it is a wine that always is very delicate with food.
Oh yeah.
And you can use it in so many ways. It's always kind of distinguished, but it's there. And for us, it was the perfect place to plant Pinot Blanc. And it is amazing to get this vineyard growing up. Also for us, I think making wine is not that you say, I want to produce this exact wine, or Pinot Blanc has to be this way. I think it has to be about listening and respect. Listen to your vineyards, listen to the place the wines grow, get a feeling for it. Just respect the talent and support the talent of a vineyard. And it's great, like Eichelberg, to grow up with this vineyard and learn from each other and listen what the vineyard is telling you. And for me, it's the perfect expression for a Pinot Blanc from the Rheingau. You have intensity, you have minerality, a lot of minerality, and if you see the vineyard is only 7 years old, I think this is a great expression how important terroir is for the quality of wine.
So when you took over the responsibility for Weingut Heitlinger and Burg Ravensburg, you also made the change to biodynamic growing, or was it already done before?
No, we started being organic in 2010. Certified with biodynamic in 2014, and it's not that I like to make my own jumpers or something like that. It's I think it's a path, or it's learning and listening, and every moment, you're out there in the vineyards, you learn and you see what you're doing wrong and what you should do better. And I think the way to biodynamic and organic is a very natural way if you want to go for. I like your word that there's still life there. It's about life and energy. And if you see what happens in the vineyards with the wines, with the insects, and also with your wines, it's the only logical way to go. And it's crazy thing. We do those voodoo stuff too. Like for the frost, we were stirring water and bringing out valerian for the buds to protect them.
Also for the people outside working?
Sure, it also helps. We're making chamomile tea for after the frost for better healing. We are also drinking some for us to heal our fears. But you see, it helps. And if those conventional farmers, I'm not saying the same thing with natural, they're doing something wrong, but they for them we are the freaks. But after those frost, hail or whatever, and if they come to you and they tell you, wow, we can't believe the vineyards look better than ours. You should do something wrong. And now we are on the point of farmer. At the end, we're all farmers and we want to do the best for our fields and for our plants. And this is the logical way. And I said some things probably are, I don't understand probably too, but if they work, if they help our wines, if they help our sustainability, and we have places they grow wine for 2,000 years. I hope they're more than 2,000 years, there's still vineyards there. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to give this respect. And at the end, if it helps the wine and if it helps the joy and the fun we are doing, it's very important. And again, if you do this, the wines are more stable, you have lower pH, you can harvest earlier, but ripe, with less alcohol. And the wines, when you open them, they take their time, yes, but this was normal century ago, that you just don't open and bang, there's the fruit. You give the wine time. Also in the cellar, we have 2018, this is the actual vintage we released. We keep them about 60 months on the fullies. Regarding sulfites, we are nearly natural with that. But I think, again, at the end, what we said is what it counts is have you a nice wine or not? And do you respect the wine? Are the wines stable? And for every vineyard we pick, how the wood management, how much wood we use, we log our you saw the forest around.
Yeah, around.
We log oak trees there for the barrels for this wine. So we want to be very, very respectful for the whole system here. And I hope the wine is okay.
Yeah, it's still a bit closed. We are still waiting that it gets some temperature. So in the meanwhile, I would like to ask Georg, we're talking about these centuries of winemaking in your area, but you were also talking about the area of Zellertal, which has a very long history. And are you also following such biodynamic rules, or?
I think it's a big topic nowadays in Germany. I think we in whole German wine growers, or mainly whole German wine growers, was a mind change over the last years to say, okay, we have to focus on sustainability. For us as a winery, we were biological certified over 5 years, but to be honest, for us, it's the main topic is sustainability. And we see when we can work with farmers from the neighbor village, it's for us more sustainable than to say, okay, the official biological certified farmers to get the humus. So sorry, my
the humus or the
compost,
compost.
and we get said, okay, it's more biological when you buy it from this one who can afford the certification, but he is 300 kilometers far away. We say, okay, we just try to stay local and use what we can have in the neighborhood of our village. And so our main focus is sustainability, but we are not biological certified.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's not as important, or not the most important topic is to be certified in something, but to do the very best out of it. And when I hear you saying, okay, we're looking for having our partners in the region, I think this is also a very logic and a very traditional way also, because in former times you could not buy your compost 500 kilometers far away because there was no way of transporting it.
Yeah, and I think the biological aspect, we don't have to talk in this roundabout. Is it better to work more industrial or more biological? I think we all think about to keep the sustainability, and also to look for the healthiness of each vineyard. And that's for me the main part, to say, okay, what I'm allowed to do to get more health and more life in the vineyards.
Yeah. Anybody who would neglect, or who would say...
How do you like the wine? Guys.
Coming back to the wine, okay.
Honestly, I had a very good intro level already with the cold wine, because in this kind of cooler condition, the wine was so rushing to your mouth. Perhaps you as a winemaker were a bit shy, saying, okay, I wanted a bit more heavy, more open. But I liked already the first moment of the wine, because it's so cool climate Weißburgunder. So cool climate Pinot Noir, even though you feel more south than we are. But this is still, than we have seen on the map, super cool in style. And at the same time, in this cold condition, I already liked the integration of the oak. I'm impressed that the oak is coming from the forest around, and so already the beginning was very, very nice. So don't be shy about that. And now it's coming to what you explained to us, moment by moment. It's opening up. There are new layers starting. There's this nice limestone concentration and this citrus.
You really have this grip.
Yes, absolutely.
You really feel the texture of the wine, which gives it a bit more, another layer again.
Probably I have to say, it's not a secret, but it's 18. As we said, it's not a problem if you buy good to have freshness, crispness in wine, even in a hot vintage. And come on, if we can produce this in 18, why are we talking about problems with climate change? But also this is not a fruit-forward Pinot Blanc. And we use for that also our, we call it anti-fruit program. And we bought 5 years ago a very old 6,000 liters pressed, one of those old, how do you call them, those Spindelpressen? I don't
Spindelpresse halt.
Yeah. Spindelpresse halt, yeah. And if anybody from the new German wine side, if they see a press like this against a pneumatic press, they freak out. And so we harvest half of the batch, and full grapes we full grapes, we crush them a little bit, wait 4 hours, and then we put it on a Spindelpresse, and we just give them hell there. And this is again, phenols are on one side very, very hard and can make wine bitter, but depending on how the next steps go, it can be very, very important for you, because they're protection, and they give you length, they give you grip, they give you tension in a wine, and it helps the wine to mature on the yeast, but it takes time. So if you would take this pressed wine or this pressed wine and just filter it totally and give it all those modern yeast, it would taste horrible. But if you give it this time, it's all natural yeast fermented. It gives it this backbone, and it doesn't bring him to that fruit side. It brings him to this mineralic, cool, good grip, great for food side. So it's like every part has to go together, and you have to just make those little adaptations to that the things work out.
Listening to these words, I would guess that you don't like the word winemaker.
No, I think a big percentage of the quality which is in the bottle is people doing it. Because you can make a shitty wine out of an amazing vineyard.
Yep.
But you cannot make an amazing wine out of a decent vineyard. It's a lot about craftsmanship, about knowledge. So we make the decisions, yes. But what makes the wine is you work in the vineyard and then respecting what you did and kind of hands off. If you did a great job, cellar is easy. It's just about to make the right things, it's not filtered, the wine is also not filtered. We don't filtrate, we take our time. And then, learn about your wines and respect them, and they're going to work out if you do the great job in the vineyard.
And Klaus, that's why Eleonora from Italy, what I'm reading here, is calling you the master.
I'm not at all the master of the vineyards, but...
the master of disaster.
About your clear words about the vinification and about the adaptation of tools like the spindle press. A couple of years ago, people from the wine world would say you can never do a good wine with a spindle press because the mechanical stress can be very high. They missed to say for bad grapes. If you press moldy grapes with a spindle press, you will get a
done.
problem.
you're done.
But today, I think that's the essence of your words. It's not a technique or a machine, a tractor or a press making better wine. It's a respect. Listen to nature and find the perfect tools to translate it to products. So the spindle press story is in my back.
I'm tasting the grapes, the skins, and the stems before we put them on the spindle press, just to make sure that we have the perfect fruit and the perfect stems and everything for that. Because, as you said, it's a very fine line to either go on one side and fall down or on the other side to fall down.
So in the morning you don't have muesli but stems.
Yeah, kind of. After the harvest, I just cannot see any more grapes.
There's a question coming in. Okay, the question is, what is a Spindelpresse? So could you just try briefly to explain how it works?
Okay. A Spindelpresse is, you probably have the picture of a press, which is a round cylinder. And right now the modern presses, they work with pneumatic, so they have a sheet inside, which with pneumatic pressure, very gently up to 2 bar, press the wine, which is very gentle. And the Spindelpresse, there is a kind of a stamp which goes from, yeah, perfect. And
camera, we need a camera on my Spindelpress graphic.
Was heißt ein Spindel auf Englisch?
I have no idea. That's why.
Was heißt like,
there we are.
Something like this. If it a little bit looks like this in a cellar, that's a Spindelpresse.
Schraube. A screw. It's like a screw, and
so that's
and this
screw,
turns and spindle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you turn it, it goes inside here, and then it will start crushing. This way it will start crushing.
And it works with a lot of pressure, and there's also chains. There are chains in there, like metal chains, and so it's really kind of hard on the grapes which is in there. But it's if you have great stuff in there, you get a lot of great stuff out. So
okay.
But it's also about again about gut feelings, about just sense what you have and how you work with it.
But it comes back to perfect grapes. Perfect grapes, perfect ripeness level of the stems, the seeds and everything together. And that's how to make wine.
Yeah. Good wines always start their life in the vineyards. The respect to the vineyards, certified or not certified is not the big question. And then the question is, if the spindle press and the basket press could be more or less the same. I think the basket press is rather going down,
horizontal,
and the spindle press is going vertical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is okay. Let me show on the camera here. This is. Can we have a camera here? This is spindle. You see, this is spindle, and this is basket.
So if you're drunk, you see a spindle as basket.
So very simple. And by the way, when I'm looking, sorry,
the spindle press was more or less next step after the basket because you can turn it around.
Right.
So to mix the grapes.
Efficient.
Yeah, that sounds like a German.
And press is better. Like you get more juice out of it than a basket press.
That sounds very German.
It's
more
very
efficiency.
German, but,
Yeah, I'm just passing the next wine we have. So we're going back to Zellertal, to Schwarzer Herrgott, so the Black Lord, which is a vineyard of yours, Georg, which seems to be a really very special one, because on the one side you have these Celtic things with the Wotan, and then you have the Schwarze Herrgott with these ancient waycross of Christian belief. So what happened in Zellertal? Was it a big party of different cultures, or?
I think Zellertal has a very moved history. From the basic, the Celtics settled down in Zellertal, and with the Odin's Rock, where they did the sacrifices for their godfather. And then, of course, the Christian people started to settle down. And the name Schwarze Herrgott, Black Lord, which is very dramatical, goes back to an old field
there we can see also upright picture should
upright
be Schwarze
is
Herrgott.
the cross of the Schwarze Herrgott nowadays. In the past it was out of the Zellertal limestone. And you told it, Klaus, that our limestone is a bit harder, and it goes back to the high percentage of salt from the back the million years ago. And our limestone got darker and darker over years until it's black, and so the people told the limestone cross the Black Lord. So the name was pretty easy explained, but of course the Schwarze Herrgott, which is our Große Lage, 100 years ago was one of the best vineyards in Pfalz. And also for us, when we took over 15 years ago, we started to harvesting each plot of Riesling. In Zellertal, the vineyards are very, very small, and we have a lot of vineyards who have just between 1,000 and 2,000 square meters. And we started to harvest each plot by its own to see over the years the potential of each single vineyard. And in Schwarze Herrgott, we have 4 different plots. And just the 2 oldest ones are selected for Schwarze Herrgott because we say there's the age and the texture, the structure to get the Grand Cru, the Große Lage. Yeah, the Schwarze Herrgott is very special vineyard from the history, but also from the soil. I told you
this
before.
is wine where I would begin to pray almost, because you know, it's really catching, and
it's also, we have in the Schwarze Herrgott in our family we have the plot from 708, so the start of Pfalz, when you will say it, and in the corner it's 2 sides limestone walls, and the corner is the small niche where the monks did the prayer centuries ago. So some days we have to pray to the Black Lord. No, but of course history is something cool. Yeah,
as long as we have some Schwarze Herrgott with it, I'm fine.
It's also for me history what makes a wine a living liquid form, you know. But also Schwarze Herrgott, the specialty of the vineyard is beneath the limestone we have a high percentage of clay. When you walk through the vineyard, the soil is getting green and gray from the high clay percentage, and the combination of the heavy limestone and the clay, when you taste it, you get more the darker aromas, not the fruit-driven Riesling. And now the 19 vintage is for me now still very young at the moment. But when we taste the barrels and the tanks in the cellar, you also the wine beginner can taste blind the Schwarze Herrgott barrels.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible wine growing in the glass. Klaus, do you like the wine? Don't say no.
I don't like
Okay.
it. I love it.
So let's.
I love it.
Yeah, that's good.
No, first thing I want to say, I think you see a great thought also in the two wines from the Chardonnay. It still has this thing for me. And this is what I really love, just tasting those two wines and seeing what you're doing in that. And coming to the clay, it doesn't show also this heaviness from clay. It shows really this limestone character, what I love.
But I have to say, in Zellertal clay, I think it comes a bit different in the wines than at your winery, because clay in Zellertal doesn't give the heaviness or the stronger character. It gives more some herbical sides, more
What I like also, I like this grapefruit, also this zest on your palate, which makes really thirsty. For a top wine, it's not overloaded, but it has so much aroma, so much depth, and so much layers. I just love it. Great compliment.
Sometimes these top wines, they're great to taste, but not as easy to drink. But here you really have this Trinkfluss, I'd say in German, this drinkability, which is just like, the bottle is far too small for that.
It's drinkable, but it still has this kind of second information always.
There's
a grip, and there's a kind of mythical deepness, saltiness that's entertaining on a different stage. So it's both. It's deep and drinkable, so that's perfect Riesling match, and I like it a lot. It feels sometimes like northern Rheinhessen.
Some say
You're almost a poet. This mythical taste also. Wow.
But it was also in the past our decision. All of our vineyards are 1 kilometer radius around our winery. We also had some vineyards at Bockenheim, which is, maybe some of you know, the northern Deutsches Weintor in Bockenheim. It's from us just 10 kilometers. But the style changes that dramatically that we said, okay, we just have to focus on Zellertal, because when you hear on the vineyard, on the terroir, that's a style which can't be copied. You need the vineyards in this region, and without you can't produce a style like this. And that's for me winemaking, to say, okay, focus on what's growing in the soil.
And that's terroir, and that's what you said. Coming back to the message of where the wine is grown, and this is a perfect picture. It doesn't need to be Pfalz or Rheinhessen or whatever. It's a Zellertal, and it's made by you. Thanks a lot.
So we're looking forward to having a new wine region in Germany, especially only for Zellertal, because it's so unique.
Maybe we have to push that theme.
The regie is telling us that we have to speed up a little bit. So I just opened the bottle of 32. No, it's not 1932, it's 2014. So I'll just pass the bottle to Christian, who will be, it's your wine.
Thank you.
It's the Balthasar, the Rheingauer Landwein. So another crazy stuff we have.
Exactly. I mean, the moment you hear Landwein, there's a high chance that this wine has not received a P number, so has not been officially confirmed as being typical enough for the region. So then, as a result, you don't get the AP number. But we have fans for wines that don't get AP numbers. So there's a certain crowd which loves this.
The hipsters.
The hipsters who love these wines. No, but seriously, first of all, what you might realize on the bottle, it has a black label. So it has a different label color, because we want to tell people, take care, this is a different style. So when the label has a different color, it means it's a different style, and black label is showing to the consumer that this is a natural wine. So natural wines, Balthasar is the dark side. The dark side from the dark side of Balthasar. The dark side of Balthasar, yeah. And
so from Schwarze Herrgott, we're coming to the black label.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, if we look back, how come we do natural wines? I have to say, we never had a plan to start natural wine. It happened to us in 2012, when for the first time we had a a barrel of wine which was meant to be through with fermentation and was meant to be dry in springtime. In springtime was not dry, was still fermenting. It was fermenting very, very slowly. And then, of course, you have different options. You might decide to bottle it while it's sweet. You might want to decide, to stop fermentation. You might want to decide to help fermentation by adding yeast. But we decided to do nothing, to just wait, to give it additional time.
You're lazy.
Well, for regarding this special tank, we decided to be lazy and to be hands off and to just let nature do the job, because we had enough trust in this barrel that it would at one point get dry and ferment to an end. So it was fermenting for a very, very long time. Then when we started to taste this wine after it had stopped fermentation, we realized that the result was something completely different. And obviously this was mainly influenced by the long time on the yeast. And then we found, well, it's completely different. It's new to us, but we kind of like it. And then we decided, okay, we're gonna accept this in future too, if this happens to us. And what we will do is put the number, telling people the number of months that this wine has spent on the yeast, because we believe that in this type of winemaking, it's the time on the yeast which has a major impact on what you actually taste, a major impact on the style of the wine. And that's what we're telling people on the label. Is not on the front label, is not grape variety. In that case, it's not terroir. Normally, that is the most important thing. Here on our natural wine, it's the number of months that the wine has spent on the yeast. And this one is 32. It's our 2014 32, having 32 months on the yeast.
Kai, you're normally known as somebody loving to ride on the razor's edge, and for natural wines.
On the dark side.
The dark side, yeah. What would you think about this wine, or what do you think?
It's not a secret that you touch me with wines like this. So this is exactly what I'm crazy about. Wines that are telling the story of being trustful and trust themselves. You feel that this wine stands to itself. It's stable by itself. It's not going to be oxidized now anymore. It has this kind of thing that if it comes to champagne, we all have a knowledge about autolyse. So if there's this kind of process wine laying on full yeast and there is a kind of stabilization that tastes like nuts, in a very good way. For champagne, we all know about it and we respect it. For Rieslings in Germany, it's still a new thing, and so we need this pioneer projects that we are drinking now to understand that these wines are so classy, and it needs good terroir, good winemakers, and a very sensitive and smart hand in the cellar to protect these wines from us. So not to touch it, not to go to the barrel, not to add yeast, not to warm it up, not to help the wine, but believe in the wine and your money on the bank to that you cannot push it. And that's amazing. So this is my smile wine at the moment, and it's very impressive to me that we are so close together. We are coming from the most different regions, perhaps in Germany, sitting together here, and are so close together if it comes to the drinkability level of the wines we have tonight.
And also mind-wise, I think you understand each other, and the concept of respecting the terroir, or not only respecting the terroir, but pushing the terroir as one of the main topics, and rather being lazy in the cellar, trying to let the wine evolve with time, with its own possibilities.
And break with the old rules. This wine is 11.5 volumes in alcohol.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in between 11.5 and 13. It's a couple of glasses you can drink more, and it's far more healthy. You have more water, you have more salt, and so on.
Has there been a long skin contact here with the 30?
This is not the main issue. I mean, the main influence here is really the yeast. I mean, that is what has really heavily impacted the style of this wine. It's a long time on the yeast. it's you might be interested in where this wine comes from. This is a wine from Rüdesheim, actually. So that's a Rüdesheimer Berg wine. So wine from a top terroir from Grand Cru vineyards. Which then spent this long time on these. I mean, for me, when we started, here
we have the picture.
Right, we have a little map here.
So Rüdesheim is all to the left.
Would be number 1 and 2. So that's the western end of the Rheingau, where it becomes very steep, very rocky, a lot of slate, and that's where this wine has been made. Mm-hmm. And for me, and that's what I just wanted to add, when we suddenly had a wine like this, it was completely new to me. It was uncommon, and I have to admit, it was strange for the beginning, but very quickly I realized that these wines are great with food. It's great to drink these wines with food. It's a real pleasure, and I love to.
I think with the Nordic cuisine, this is something mind-blowing.
Yeah. May I say something with not making orange so far, or natural, or as natural? I like to say as natural as I see so far. No, I think what also Kai said before, everybody, it's not a matter of how you make wine. It's a matter if the wine is good or no good. Mm-hmm. So if the wine is great, it can be orange, it can be green, it can be whatever. It's great. If it's no good, it's not good because it's orange or because it's that or because it's natural. It's just no good. So everybody has to understand that orange is a way fermenting on the skins with more phenolic on the white wine. We are having this with spindle presses, so blah, blah, blah. At the end, is it good or no good? Yep. And I think this is what we as people have to understand. And it's not about laziness. I think it's you have to be very, very knowing what you're doing. Okay. No, I don't want to offend because it's kind of set back.
Maybe it's patience. It's the better word than laziness.
Like those two also, guys. Yeah. It's about trust.
Yeah.
A trust and knowing things, and just doing the right thing, little thing on the right moment. This is not about being lazy. This is also not being about crazy and I want to do this now. I have this new machine and that. It's about trust in work, in your terroir.
And then I'm using this word of laziness often because my grandfather once told me long years ago, you're allowed to be lazy, but you have to have trust and you have to be smart. So in the end, that's just playing with the words, but the patience, the trust we have, or you as winemakers have, to your grapes, to your products, the ground products, this is the most important for sure.
And if it's good.
Yeah. And we see it.
At the same time, you need the kind of power to stay innovative, even though the common sense is not with you. I think when you started this project, there was not 99% of your consumers or colleagues screaming, thanks, Christian, that you give us this wine.
Actually, what we quickly realized, and here comes the sommelier, what we quickly realized, you can't put this on a wine list saying this is a Riesling trocken.
No way.
That is going to offend people. You know, that's not, and that's why, you know, I have I have 2 wine bars, and that's great for us because that's really a daily market research. I mean, not right now at Corona times, but we hope to be back on the market soon.
We didn't want to say.
Oh, right, he did it. Right.
Bing.
Yeah, right. But no, what we realized very quickly, this is something you need to guide people with and tell them the story and tell them why it looks a bit different than other wines, why it smells a bit different than other wines. But when you catch them and when you manage to make them listen, then they get very open, very interested. So we quickly understood that this is something you need a sommelier for. I mean, that's really something you need to tell a story. You can't sell this as dry Riesling. This
it's
is
the
going
beginning of the way. If you
exactly,
go to Copenhagen at the moment, it's very easy.
Then it works even without sommelier.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
Thanks a lot for pioneers. You just ride the wave.
Okay, so we still have a few minutes, but I think Pinot, yeah. Pinot Noir Löchle 2016. This time not from Weingut Heitlinger, but from Burg Ravensburg. So I'll pass the bottle to you first.
Open the bottle.
I did it before because I think it would be quite good for the wine to have a certain moment of breath before.
But you just did it in the bottle, no decanter.
No. I think it could have been good to decant or just to aerate the wine. But yeah, sometimes we think we should do it, but then we forget to do it. So
Pinot D varietal from appellation of Baden. It's our main grape varietal. The history of Pinot goes back in Baden till 887. So we are really ancient in planting Pinot, and the same monks, the Cistercian monks from Burgundy, were planting Pinot Noir in our region as they developed Pinot Noir in Burgundy. Pinot Noir is just a freaky, crazy, amazing varietal. But it's very unique. I think Pinot Noir is something very different to all the other red wines we have, because Pinot Noir is about elegance, about freshness, about fruit. Pinot Noir is, I think, on the red side, one of the varietals that expresses as Riesling terroir than no other red varietal. And it's a great passion, sure, being Baden and being very happy to have this vineyard. You see a picture of Burg Ravensburg.
Yeah,
Löchle
nice.
means little hole, and you see this encarvement in the middle of the castle hill. It's like amphitheater, and so it's protected. We have gypsum limestone there. It's 220 million year old limestone, also with clay, so perfect for Pinot. This Löchle is a monopoly vineyard. We have at Burg Ravensburg, we have 3 monopolies: Husarenkappe for the Riesling, Dicker Franz for the Blaufränkisch, and Löchle for Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris a little bit, but mainly Pinot Noir. And this is the result. And for the reds, we even wait longer than for the whites. For release, 16 is the actual vintage we just released. And as I said, time is for us so precious. You cannot force things, or you cannot speed things. And it's so great to have this time for the wines staying in barrels, on the lees and everything. And 16 was a vintage we had on the, was great. We had on the 12th of April, we got snow. A little bit like this year. But the buds were bigger, and we had some snow on the buds, so this was very unusual to see. It was a quite cool year, but we had small fruit, we had a perfect ripeness at the end, a good concentration, and Löchle Pinot always is a little bit on this spicier, earthier side. And we also use about here 50% full cluster, full berries. The rest is full berry, we don't crush. We don't do a saignée. We really much believe on not interfering also in the juice skin ratio, just bring it in as it is in the vineyard. And working with full cluster is also very tricky, because you really have to check every cluster. I see every cluster in the vineyard I look at, and if it's perfect, and if not, we destamp it and use it as full berries. And then second time we look at them when we put them in the cuve. It's fermented in wood cuve. The punch downs are made by hand. The remontage is made by hand, no pump. So very, very, for us, is the contact to the wine and to the process very, very important to get as much feeling as we can. And
this sounds like an incredible amount of work on the one side, but on the other side, 2016 we do have, and it's still young, fresh. It's still rather in the beginning of its lifetime, I'd say, to this wine.
I would think if you're talking about Grosses Gewächs Grand Cru, you need wines that have a long lifespan. And wine is like life. You cannot get everything in one thing. You always have to pay for something. So if you want to have wines that age longer, you cannot. They take their time, and you should give them their time. Very, very important. And I think we just love also that grip of the tannin from the full clusters, and it keeps the wines fresh. And as I said, wine is about energy, and I think this wine is still full of energy, and it's not 5 years old; it's 5 years young.
Oh, that's well said. Very well said. Yeah.
At a nice, beautiful span, this wine's going to develop, and I hope we can show in Germany what Pinots we can make, because we have the perfect climate now, more than we used to have for Pinots, and we don't want to copy. I don't want to copy Burgundy, or then you're only copy, but why not be as good as, or let's see.
Yeah. Christian, your second passion besides Riesling is Pinot Noir, Spätburgunder. That's the other grape you grow. What is your impression about this wine?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Claus Pinot Noirs. I mean, that's he's really doing a great job, and obviously Baden is a great place to grow Pinot. But I love the structure. I mean, this is really structure and grip and the nice acidity. That's what in generally I love about Pinot Noir. Because Pinot Noir is a grape variety which still has the acidity, which I love when I have food. I want to have some acidity in the wine, but this has so much structure and length. I had a first sip of this wine. It really stays endlessly in your mouth, on your tongue. I really like this. It's a great Pinot, great fun.
You were just talking about the acidity. This is something which is for me really one of the most important parts of a red wine. You know, I remember the times when the big Shiraz of Australia, they were famous. You were sitting in front of the glass and
they're impressive, but that's all. They're impressive.
That's the point.
Don't want to. That's at least my opinion. They're very impressive, but you don't want to continue and go on for a full
meal. You can't even finish the glass.
Exactly. And this is something you just want to drink. Wow.
It's not drying out your mouth, and the energy you're talking, it's coming back to you. It's not something we just talk about. It's hitting you. It's giving you energy to stay alive, to talk to your people on the table, to continue your food, and not getting lazy. And
this is something which goes through all the wines we were tasting here tonight with the Schwarzer Herrgott. You know, it's the same. You have this nice punch of acidity coming through, and here again in the Pinot Noir, I think this is something where all the four of you are on the same level of understanding again.
It's not only us, but I think that's the future of winemaking we are talking about. Wine is still a drink, so it's made for drinking, not just to impress your neighbors or whatever. It's made and to drink, and even if you're thirsty, you can take your glass and take a sip and drink it. And if you have something to eat with, be happy. The perfect match is one thing, but the moment the wine is coming to your mouth is a magical moment. It says, yes, I want to continue drinking it, or perhaps I put the glass back to the table. Model 1 is far better. So continue drinking it and do it with a refreshing idea. And so thank you for Pinots that can talk the language of Riesling, of Chardonnay, of Champagne. It's always the same. If it comes to high end, it's the drinkability level. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You're just giving the nice word about the Riesling again, and as the guys in the background are waving and saying, hey, come on guys, we have to faster, we end up with a Kabinett from Kai again. So people might call us crazy to come back to a white wine after the reds, but I think in Germany this is getting more and more popular.
There's not a wrong moment for a Kabinett. We think today you don't need an excuse to have a bottle of Kabinett. You can have it before a meal, you can have it with meal, you can have it afterwards, you can have it next to a red wine glass or after a red wine, because we feel that this is the German Riesling style that is perhaps most unique if you compare white wines worldwide. There's no other region in the world you can make wines like Kabinetts. besides Moselser, Ruwer, Nahe, and this red slaty parts in Nierstein in Rheinhessen, because the secret about Kabinett, I would say, is...
Just serve yourself so that the others also have some.
I'm a bit picky. No, the magical point about Kabinett is terroir. So it's not a secret, these wines have some sweetness. So the sugar level here is around 40, but at the same time you have a dramatical load of refreshing acidity, super low pH levels of 2.8, total acidity of something like 12 or so, and a super low alcohol. What is the level here?
8.
It's 8.0, so it's slightly more than a beer. And that's the idea on these wines. You can really drink it like lemonade. And in the past, when we were grown up, Kabinett was known as a price range of wine. It was what the Gutswein, perhaps, the estate levels are today. And today we feel that Kabinett is a category of a drinking level. So low alcohol, refreshing, a combination of acidity and some sugar. And at the same time, it can be made as an entry level. It can be made like here. This is a Premier Cru level.
Yeah.
And we do Grand Cru Kabinett at the same time. So it's not a price category. Some people call it, it's a religion. It's an idea of a drink. So we can now have it to refresh, to restart. We can now restart with the first wines again after this class of Kabinett.
Okay. And Kai, we have people saying coffee and cake was yesterday. Kabinett and cake is awesome. That's what they
works as well.
And what you just said, refreshment. You said the word refreshment. That's so true. I mean, I love to finish a meal or a wine tasting, and that's exactly what we're doing right now today with that style of wine, because it's light, it's waking you up, it's refreshing, it's low in alcohol, it's fruity. It's a fantastic way of finishing a dinner or meal or tasting. It's
this is something I think, especially in Germany, the sommeliers are really taking as part of their religion. In the end of the night, when they have done all their job, they love to drink Riesling Kabinett as refreshment, just to party or to celebrate the evening. Georg, it's a totally different style than your Schwarze Herrgottsacker, but I think if I see you're smiling, you like the wine.
Yeah, definitely. I'm crazy about Kabinett, and like you said, Kai, it's kind of a religion, but it's also kind of how to say, to get a really good Kabinett, to find the balance between the very high acidity and to get it with a little sugar and get the drink flow for me. It's some kind of religion and science to get really this kind of drinking style, and what is on one side a refresher, but on the other side you can show it in a Premier Cru Grand Cru. It's really crazy and cool stuff.
So this would be the next religion in Sellertal after Celtic and
we have
Christian. You have Kabinett, huh?
Yeah. But it's also, I think, Kabinett. You need the soil and also the climate, and I think you combine it in the best way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really sad. I think we can do this in Baden.
But you can drink it in Baden.
Yeah, we can drink it. And I have to admit, I don't like sweet wines, but I love this.
Yeah.
It's, this is a German. Kabinett is a German wonder.
Again, we are talking about wonder.
Yeah.
Wonder. Yeah.
And this is not drinking sweet. This is just drinking fun. You have fruit, you have acidity that cut through, and this is.
There's love from
Cheers.
Julia, but
Cheers.
there's a question also coming up here.
is your Kabinett sweet in taste?
No.
No, it's not sweet, it's Kabinett. Yeah? So the answer for the future is Kabinett.
It's
for
perfectly
a lot of
balanced.
questions. And it's 2018, so it was a very hot year. And a lot of people think that 18 is not cool climate, but this wine feels very plain, very watery in the middle mouth palate. And it brings the idea of tonight together, produce drinkable wines and drink it. And thanks for the situation here.
I think as Julia is giving us a lot of love, we will do exactly what you said, Kai. We will restart the tasting afterwards. But
Empty the bottles.
let's see about that. But we will say bye-bye to all you out there. Thank you for listening us. Thank you for taking your time early morning, late night, in the middle of the day, whenever. And hopefully we can see us all together in live, in person, very soon again, and raise the glass for a nice cheers.
Thank you, Per.
Thanks for the organization. So the team here from
Well, the team is behind the
Rheingau.
cameras. Team
Yeah, come here.
Thank you for organizing this.
Come
And
here.
yeah, come in front of the camera. Come on, we need a real camera showing the team. Can we have the real team? Oh, yeah.
There they are. Step a bit forward. Yes, here you go.
Here's the real team. So thank you, Antoine, Julia.
Thank you.
Birgit is
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Get yourself a glass fast.
Thank you
Grab
for
a glass.
organizing this. Thank you for watching in all the different countries. So in Asia, it's time to go bed finally. So it's okay for sleeping now. Thank you for joining and following. Thank you for being fans of Veritable and all those amazing German wine producers. It was great to have you here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing this effort to come to join us in this TV studio of Julia's father. And Per, thank you very much for taking us through this tasting. It's great to have such a famous sommelier who has some time for us here in
Biggest pleasure.
in the Rheingau. So from my side, thank you very much. We all hope, and I guess that's the main statement, that's the main issue. We really want to see you as soon as possible in person again, whenever this will be possible. But I think we are getting closer to this point. So we will be back. We hope to bring you back to the Rheingau and to the different regions in Germany and visit estates and spend great tastings live and in reality and great dinners as we did before. This will come back, and I think we are getting very close to that. Stay tuned, and hope to see you again in real very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers and bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.